The Locked On Podcast Network presents the College Sports Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in college sports. From our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. Bringing you the real story. Why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The College Sports Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in college sports.
The Kiffin era has begun. We've got everything you need to know about Lane Kiffin's first few hours in Baton Rouge.
You are Locked On LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers.
So the Lane Kiffin era is underway. On Sunday, it became official. Lane Kiffin releasing a statement that he is leaving Ole Miss to accept the LSU job. LSU subsequently announcing that Lane Kiffin has accepted their job. And now Lane Kiffin lands in Baton Rouge and is officially the LSU football coach and is off and running. A few things that I want to touch on here today as we talk about how the day transpired, what staff changes look like, what we know about Lane Kiffin's staff, and then also the roster. As signing day is Wednesday. So it was an eventful day on Sunday that I want to touch on as well. So we'll get to all that here over today's episode. Thank you for hanging out with us. So let's kind of go through the chronology of the day on Sunday. So we all went to bed in the early morning hours of Sunday, late Saturday night into Sunday morning, with the understanding that Ole Miss was going to have a 9 a.m. meeting. And Lane Kiffin was going to address his team. And then after that 9 a.m. meeting, he was going to board a plane to Baton Rouge, at which point he would then be introduced as the LSU coach officially, and then there'd be a press conference on Monday. Well, then we all went to bed weary and sleepy-eyed and woke up Sunday at whatever time we did to realize that 9 a.m. meeting had actually been delayed and pushed back until the afternoon. Now, the initial word that we had where the planes were going to be we're going to leave Baton Rouge at 11:30 to fly to Oxford. All that got delayed. Everything got pushed back. That team meeting was moved to 1 o'clock. The planes departed Baton Rouge later than anticipated. And I'm trying to get the exact times that they depart. I have all my notes right here anyway. The planes ended up departing Baton Rouge later and landing in Oxford. It was about 1:30. They landed in Oxford at 1:25 is when they departed Baton Rouge. Landed in Oxford at 2:10. They collected Kiffin, his wife Layla, their son Knox, and then several other staff members that we'll discuss here in a little bit. Flew to Baton Rouge to much fanfare and went straight to LSU football operations, which we'll talk about here in a second, how Lane's day went. But Lane was asked actually at the Oxford airport. Marty Smith of ESPN did an incredible job catching up with Lane and covering this entire thing, and spoke to Lane before he got on the plane to Baton Rouge and asked him point blank why he didn't attend the meeting. This is what Lane Kiffin said.
Again, I totally respect Keith's decision.
So that was his decision?
Yeah. He asked me not to come to the meeting and said I couldn't come, but which I totally understand. I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. We're trying to find a way, to make this work and coach the team and give the team the best chance to win. But I also, he's got a job to do, and like he said, he has to live here. So, like he said, maybe all the national people understand why he should let me coach, but he has to live here, and it's a little different when you're the AD. So totally respect that. And Keith has been amazing to us over the 6 years.
So Lane said there that Keith Carter was the one who would not let him address his team. Lane Kiffin also released a statement on social media, which read, after a lot of prayer and time spent with family, I made the difficult decision to accept the head coaching position at LSU. I was hoping to complete a historic 6-season run with this year's team by leading Ole Miss through the playoffs, capitalizing on the team's incredible success and their commitment to finishing strong and investing everything into a playoff run with guardrails in place to protect the program if any areas of concern. My request to do so was denied by Keith Carter, despite the team also asking him to allow me to keep coaching them so they could better maintain their high level of performance. Unfortunately, that means Friday's Egg Bowl was my last game coaching the Rebels. While I'm looking forward to a new start with a unique opportunity at LSU, I will forever cherish the incredible 6 years I spent at Ole Miss and will be rooting hard for the team to complete their mission and bring a championship to Oxford. So Lane squarely placing the blame here on Keith Carter for how this all transpired. I don't blame him. I also don't think that's completely genuine. Maybe genuine. My feeling all along with this has been that the two people that could have ended this charade were Lane Kiffin and Keith Carter. At any point, Lane, knowing he was leaving Ole Miss, could have walked away. Didn't, because he wanted to coach his team. Keith Carter at any point could have told Lane Kiffin, this ends today. Didn't, and it created this environment that festered. So there's no great answer to this. But I think Lane Kiffin, in that statement, is trying to make it very clear that he didn't walk away from his team. He was forced away from his team. Now, you can believe what you want, and history will decide. Ultimately, Lane Kiffin walked away, but he wanted to continue coaching his team, and the athletic director told him, no, you're not coaching your team. You're leaving. You can't even address your team. And you and I can have our own opinions about who was right in that situation. I understand Ole Miss not letting Lane Kiffin coach. I do, because I look at it from the perspective of if LSU's head coach decided they were leaving to be the head coach at Alabama in the middle of a playoff run, there's no way I'd want that person on a sideline. And that's not cutting off your nose to spite your face. That's understanding that person, while they're working for for another program, is going to be on your sideline with your team, recruiting your players, recruiting for another team, working for another team. And while that game is happening, the entire broadcast is going to be about that coach coaching another team. It becomes a commercial for your rival. So I get it. I get Keith Carter's decision. I do. I understand Keith Carter's decision to say, you're not coaching our team. If you're leaving, I get it. But Keith Carter's timing in this was atrocious because he could have put a stop to this 2 weeks ago during Ole Miss's bye week, but he didn't. He could have made sure Lane Kiffin didn't coach the Egg Bowl, and this could have been done more than a week ago already, but he didn't. And that was weak leadership on Keith Carter's part. Seems like a smart guy. I don't know him. Seems like a smart guy, a nice guy, but a guy that was unable to make a very tough decision as a leader, and as leaders are often called to do. And it led to an uncomfortable situation locally, nationally, and something that really left Ole Miss in a lurch because they also got way behind in the coaching cycle, the coaching carousel. Now, in that interview with Marty Smith, Lane Kiffin was also asked, why are you leaving?
You know, there was something to me. This was really hard. My heart was here. But I just, I talked to some mentors, Coach Carroll, Coach Saban, and especially when Coach Carroll said, man, your dad would tell you to go, man, take the shot. Take the shot. You've accomplished a lot here. I always hated how we only gave 1 year to Tennessee and left. I really hated that feeling of that, even though it was an exciting year. But, I think that we gave a lot to this program and to the city, and some of the most historic wins in this stadium they've ever had, and best regular season in the history of the school. So I feel proud of that part, but it just became time. I talked to God and he told me it's time to take a new step. It's a new chapter.
If you're an everydayer, you heard us earlier in the week when we talked about Lane Kiffin referencing speaking at his dad's funeral, and how only then, when he talked about how difficult it was moving as much as they did as kids, why they did it, but at his dad's funeral, hearing people from all these different places talk about how important his dad meant to him, to them in all those different spots. it made sense. I told you then, and if you're an everydayer, you heard the episode. If you missed it, you can go check it out. But it was very apparent that was Lane's justification. And by the way, he was asked even further and talked about speaking at his dad's funeral. He referenced that again.
When I spoke at my dad's funeral, he moved 17 times. And I realized when all the people, I got all the letters, calls, people showed up from around all those different spots, NC State, all the different spots he coached. And they said he was able to impact them and how much that meant to them. And so I've really strived since that day to really try to impact people and help people through life, through my journey. So just prayed a lot and made a family decision and, hopefully get a chance to go, impact a whole new set of people.
From an LSU perspective, you'd love to hear Lane Kiffin elated about joining LSU and the opportunity. That's not what you got there. But I think that just speaks to how difficult a decision this was, because I do believe Lane Kiffin is sincere and genuine in his love, affection, for admiration for Oxford, for Ole Miss. But professionally, he has goals. His goals are to win national championships. And I don't think he feels like he can do that at Ole Miss. And you're going to say, but they're in the playoff. And that's true. But I think you can also genuinely look at this team and say, it's a very good team. This team isn't going to win a national championship. And certainly you're not capable of competing for and winning multiple national championships over many years and sustaining that, which is ultimately why Lane Kiffin today is in Baton Rouge.
NFL Sundays move fast, one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets on the action as it unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlighted moment. You can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into and locked on every drive, every snap, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels.
Lane Kiffin is off to LSU. He tried to burn down Ole Miss. It was definitely a burn the boats type situation at Ole Miss. He was hoping to leave a flaming pile of rubble. Jet set off to LSU. He's got a competitive advantage over Ole Miss, yada, yada, yada. Ole Miss and Keith Carter was able to intercept that, figure out what was going on, and figure out the best course of action, which included hiring Pete Golding as the head coach, not the interim head coach, the head coach. If you are interested in any of that stuff, tune into our podcast yesterday, our lives. We talk about the hiring of Pete Golding and what went on. We kind of went back and forth. Some things information-wise changed from one podcast to this podcast. So we're going to talk about the play caller in this offensive podcast. When we did our last show, we thought Charlie Weiss was going to hang around, obviously. Since then, there was obviously a second renegotiation of what went on, and they're going to get some more money. So Charlie Weiss got on the plane and headed down to Baton Rouge. Good for him, yada, yada, yada. Go away. It's going to be fine. So who is going to be the playoff play caller for Ole Miss, and who will be the play caller moving forward, and a couple of names that you need to know down the road for people that Pete Golding might hire, because there are assistant coach hirings that will come. We'll talk about all of that today, and I will react to what's going on and where I see different things and what my opinion is on all of that. But first of all, play caller for the playoffs. The best chance for continuity in Ole Miss's offense is with Joe Judge. He has been the head coach of the New York Giants. He's worked on Bill Belichick's staff, which means he knows how to grind, which is a very important thing that they're going to study over the film pretty consistently to try and figure out how to take advantage of what the other team is doing to you. And with Ole Miss's weapons, he has a handle on how they have been used. Listen, Both of the quarterbacks at Ole Miss love Joe Judge. They're not going anywhere. Both of the quarterbacks love Pete Golding. They're not going to go anywhere. It's not what it looks like. When you have a situation over the last month that Ole Miss has had, I truly believe, I can't prove it, but I truly believe is this Lane Kiffin gig was done about 3 weeks ago, and this whole thing was about running out the clock, including what he did to Ben Garrett down after the Egg Bowl was to buy 12 hours or so that he can watch Knox unimpeded. That's what that's about. Distraction. And while that was going on, you started to see like Joe Judge pop up in the Instagram thing of Trinidad Chambliss and Austin Simmons, to where Joe Judge has been the dude for the quarterbacks and the staff. So it would make sense that he would have a familiarity about what these quarterbacks can do well and what they have struggled with, because Austin Simmons requires a different game than Trinidad Chambliss. They just do. Playing quarterbacks is not a cut and dry situation. Each quarterback is going to have strengths, and they are going to have the game called to those strengths. That's the reason it looks so different when Trinidad plays quarterback than when Austin Simmons played quarterback. But they both seem to really like Joe Judge. Now, I talked with a parent of a player on the team that mentioned that before the Egg Bowl, the players were starting to revolt over what was going on in the locker room. Now, there's going to be some certain players that are very dug in on Lane Kiffin. That's just going to happen. I don't know what it looks like, but you saw Kewan Lacey essentially being wooed the last couple of weeks by Lane Kiffin. That's the reason in post-game you see them walking around together, taking off belts, all of that stuff. That is all a part of the recruiting process. But I don't think that I am under the impression that one of those players that are just in love with Lane Kiffin is Austin Simmons or Trinidad Chambliss. And I think they're much more a Joe Judge player, essentially. So Joe Judge knows exactly how to handle these players and can call games to their strength. He can handle it. He, like I said, he's grinded in the NFL. He's been the head coach of the New York Giants. The only thing that I have questions about is the tempo aspect of this offense. Now, Ole Miss has proven this season their willingness from time to time to go slow. They had 35 minutes of time of possession against the Oklahoma Sooners, and they had 38 minutes of time of possession against the South Carolina Gamecocks. They can go slow when they need to. So the question becomes, I think Joe Judge is going to be the primary play caller for Ole Miss for this playoff run, but how does it look? Because you can slow it down and not change the system or the structure. They're going to go fast at times. They're going to go slow at times. What is comfortable for Joe Judge? I think he can call the plays. The plays are the plays whenever you're trying to take advantage of what's going on. All of these guys have sat in meetings for multiple years. So that can happen. If you're trying to take advantage of a free safety coming down, you're probably running a concept that'll force the free safety to come down and beat him over the top. It's a simple thing for play callers, and we'll talk with Corey Burton, who is going to help us out. He actually does Locked On Vandy as well, but he's going to help out Locked On Ole Miss with some extra stuff, doing anatomy of the play and talking about play calling. And he can really look at what needs to be done and how it happens and all the idiosyncrasies of calling plays. I think Joe Judge is in position to essentially try out for the offensive coordinator position. I get that he's been a head coach in the NFL, but if he goes and does really well in these playoff games and builds a little momentum, obviously he would have the ability to stay in Oxford, Mississippi. If not, I got a couple of more names that I'm thinking about from time to time. We'll talk about that in just a second. But first, I need to let you know that this hire is going to be massively important for Pete Golding. Whenever a defensive head coach takes a job, the most important thing they can do is nail the offensive coordinator hire. So we talk about Joe Judge getting a tryout essentially in the playoff to what will it look like long term? Both things are going to be massively important for Ole Miss. We saw with LSU this year how the scheme can make the offense look clunky. It's not the offense that the guy that went to Notre Dame did with Jaden Daniels and all that when they were breaking records. No, it was the same plays, but the way they were called and all of that stuff, it was just problems.
NFL Sundays move fast, one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets on the action as it unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlighted moment. You can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into and locked on every drive, every snap, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you.
From the opening kick to the final whistle, Ohio State imposed its will on Michigan.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Ohio State beat Michigan for the first time since 2019, and it snapped a 4-game losing streak to the team up north. Mo, I know we both were hyped during this game. We're still hyped about this win right now, and we get a whole year, bro, to talk about this win, to talk about this team, and to just discuss the total, complete win, team win, and domination of Michigan in their house, in the snow. It was their conditions. If there was a weather forecast that Michigan fans would have wanted, 30 degrees, snowy, a little bit wet on the field, the ball's getting wet, they got what they wanted, and Ohio State still won.
Yeah, Jay, I mean, 100%. First off, I'm honored to be able to celebrate the first time since 2019, which means the first time since my podcasting career started that Ohio State has beat Michigan. I've had to record all these shows on whether it's my show or Come On Locked On Buckeyes. I've never been able to celebrate a win against Ohio State since I've known you. I've never been able to celebrate on your platform on Locked On Buckeyes. And I've never been able to look at the show and look at the comments and be able to respond to people. So shout out to everybody that listens. I'm ready to respond to all y'all comments. I want to hear I want to interact with everybody on what everybody got to say about this Michigan game. It's one of those type of moments because to me, as crazy as it's a big moment in my podcast career as well as yours, because I started a podcast in 2020. We haven't beat them since 2019. It's the first time where I've actually been able to come and celebrate this game. Even celebrated a national championship and playoff appearances and all that. But I have not been able to celebrate this game and be on the winning side. So it's a great feeling.
Bro, it's a great feeling. But it's even better. It's a better feeling because I think going into this game, there were some Ohio State fans, maybe even you, Mo, that had some you were curious about how Ryan Day's mentals are going to be in this game. Would he be leaning into the storylines? Got to win the rushing battle to win the game, or the truest thing about football, you got to win the battle in the trenches to win a game like this. Would he lean into those storylines? Would he lean into trying to prove something to somebody or even to himself? Or would he just play Buckeye football? And Buckeye football right now is tough in the trenches on both offensive and defensive lines, a running game that can get it done 4, 5, 6 yards a pop. You're not trying to just lean on explosive runs. You're just trying to be very, very efficient. A quarterback that takes what the defense is giving him and is able to bounce back after throwing really 2 bad passes. The one to Cardinal Tate, okay, I get it. First play of the game, he had been there in a while. I understand why he make that pass. The one to Jeremiah Smith on the sideline, that was a play that I think Julian Sand would take back. But he bounced back in a big way. That's one of the most impressive things to me in this game was the way that Julian Sand bounced back after the first 2 throws of the game to be the quarterback Ohio State needed. Not a guy to throw for 400 yards. He took what the defense gave him, threw a big pass to Will Kazmarek over the middle in the latter part of the second quarter. He threw 3 touchdown passes to his three receivers, and he just leaned into Ryan Day's motto all season. Just win. We ain't got to blow him out by 50 points. Just find a way to win, and that's exactly what Julian Sand did.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as I text you, as soon as he threw that interception, and I was basically like, this is the scenario, down 3-0, we get the ball to start the game and we make a mistake. And it's our quarterback, as Julian said. This is what the world wanted to see. They wanted to see what it's like when Ohio State gets punched in the mouth. How do they respond? When they make a mistake early in the game and they kind of basically put the ball in another team's court, how are they going to respond? And so being down 3-0, Julian saying throws the interception. I'm telling you, you can't make this up. Here we go. Like, man, bro's done played flawless almost all year. Ain't threw an interception when it mattered all year. And walks out there in this game, and his second pass of the day is an interception. Now, part of that was just the fact of Ohio State coming out being aggressive. First play of the game, down the field shot to Carnell Tate. So second play of the game was just a forced throw to Jeremiah Smith. I think they just game planned to come out there and get the playmakers the ball. And he bounced back, though. At that situation, this is what everybody wanted to see from Ohio State, and so they saw it. And so now what you have to admit is that when a team punches Ohio State in the mouth, when a quarterback makes a mistake early, he's able to bounce back and play almost flawless from that point on. So for 55 of the 60 minutes of play, he played almost as flawless as you can get in the conditions that he played in. So yes, Julian Sand was probably the brightest spot of the day. And it's not like he threw for 400 yards and 50 touchdowns or nothing crazy like that. But he made every throw that you needed him to make in the conditions when it mattered. And then once it was late in the game, it was just like, he was game managing from there. At that point, it was just run the ball. I think, I talked about it. Michigan waved the white flag semi-early based on how they played, called offensively, weren't really aggressive to try and get the ball down the field. And I think that's why Ohio State didn't put up 40 and 50 points, because they respected the white flag wave through play calling.
I don't want to take the next thought because I know we both have thoughts about what impressed us. But what impressed you in this game?
I mean, you said it with Julian saying, but like Ryan Day, because here's the thing, like Julian saying could have responded appropriately. Everybody could have responded the right way, but Ryan Day could not have. And Ryan Day, after that interception, could have panicked. And instead, like he trusted Matt Patricia in the defense, and then he turned right back around. And whether it was him play calling or Brian Hartline, he trusted in whatever the game plan was and didn't shy away from it. We didn't start running the ball a lot more. He gave it right back to Julian Sand and allowed him to march down the field and try and score a touchdown. Like they go up 6-0 off the interception. We go right back down and score a touchdown because Ryan Day did not let his ego, Ryan Day did not let his fear of losing this game or letting this game slip away get in the way of doing the right thing, which is allow Julian Sand to bounce back from this. Don't protect him from a mistake. See how he responds. You need to see this as a head coach. So for Ryan Day to be able to see it through and allow Julian Sand to bounce back from that and not kind of hide him and hope that Bo Jackson was going to run for 100+ yards and hope that screen passes to Jeremiah Smith will result in big plays and kind of check downs will be check down our way down the field or work and be enough to beat Michigan. Instead, he trusted in the game plan, trusted in Julian Sand. And so to me, I think Ryan Day deserves, for as much as he's gotten killed 2 days, the Monday after playing Michigan, I think he deserves a lot of flowers for how he handled, especially the entire situation early, because he could have panicked. Everybody could have panicked, but if there was somebody that we would have had the least amount of confidence in that moment when Julian Sand threw a touchdown, it would be Ryan Day. Like, no disrespect, because Ryan Day has earned all the doubt that we've had with him over the years, and I've been less critical than probably anybody else. I've been his biggest fan in the corner, but as criticized as he's been over these past few years, even after winning a national championship, for this game to be such a focal point as a stain on his career after being a defending national champion head coach, undefeated going into this game, I'm proud to see the way he was able to stay level-headed and manage this game as a head coach and do what it took to win the game.